Hi, everybody. I'm Al Roker, and I'm joined today by Erica Rubach. She's the co-founder of EMME Solutions. It's a content development and marketing firm that specializes in social awareness programming and multimedia campaigns. And Rick Angeli, he's account director and producer at Al Roker Entertainment, and also happens to be a guy who was scarred in his childhood because kids called him peanut butter and jelly.
I never should have told you that.
No, you didn't, but you did, and yet you did. Life Aid, a story of hope, recently aired on Discovery, the Science Channel, and American Heroes Channel, describing the problem of mental illness and suicide among first responders and military veterans and the advancements that are happening using technology, therapy, and community to overcome PTSD that leads sometimes to tragedy. So before we take a deep dive into that program, we want to describe social good branded content for those that may be unfamiliar with this kind of marketing. Let's bring in Erica Rubach. She's got a long history of creating cause marketed campaigns. So Erica, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what it means to inspire social impact as you work with brands and nonprofits.
Absolutely. Thank you, Al. I have been in the media industry for over 20 years now. And even from the very beginning of my career, it always seemed to me that selling advertising and selling media just for the purpose of products and product sales really wasn't enough. It didn't feel like it would really be meaningful to consumers, to viewers, or to the people that we were producing any of our campaigns for. So early on, I started finding ways to connect with community outreach programming and selling our advertising and our marketing campaigns through that means. And it was very successful. And as I grew my career at NBC, it really started to become a niche. And about 10, 15 years ago in the industry, we really started to see a lot of research about connecting with consumers. And if we were putting out messages that were associated with our brand partners, we were connecting them with something in their community that was meaningful to them. We were actually generating more results for our clients. We were developing consumer loyalty. We were driving results at point of sale. And, all around it was a win-win. So when my business partner and I left NBC many years ago and we started EMME Solutions, we did it with the purpose of dedicating all of our work towards cause marketing and social impact. Our brand partners, our nonprofit partners, as we connect those and we bring in our media resources and leverage our network, we've been able to deliver extraordinary results that actually mean something to consumers.
So, Erica, Life Aid is an example that we're going to discuss. It's an hour-long TV show. Some people would think, well, why not? Why would you create an actual TV program, not say PSAs or commercials or social media ads?
That's a good question. The fact of the matter is we created all of those. In today's marketing strategy, in order to be effective, we've got to be able to deliver messaging on every platform and make it available to consumers when and where they're ready to receive it. So we did a lot of those pieces. The centerpiece, though, of this program was the long form television special. And the reason that we created that special is because we had a longer story to tell. So in this particular case with the nonprofit partner, the level of research and the way that we're approaching mental health in this particular case is very different. And so we needed to make sure that we had enough time to be able to educate viewers and educate them in a way that they understood the stories of the people that were involved and really how it could potentially impact them in their own personal lives.
And Rick, I would think that no matter what, at the end of the day, the story, the content, has to be compelling and stand on its own.
Right, that's correct. And these stories certainly were compelling. I mean, we were dealing with people that, in my mind, they're our heroes, and we wanted to do them justice by kind of telling their story in a way that was both dramatic, that had that audience appeal, but also in the end that would sort of make a difference, whether it's people getting involved, people donating, whatever they can do. My background was I spent many years working for NFL Films, which was a um, that whole thing. The whole thing that NFL Films does is storytelling. Certainly, that was more about sports, but I kind of felt that after a long career of doing that kind of work, to use my skills to be able to make a difference, that kind of that was why I really love this project.
In fact, Rick is the guy who created the phrase, the frozen tundra of Lambeau
Right.
Field.
That was not me,
I know it wasn't. I knew it wasn't you. I just wanted to say that
but I helped.
because I love saying the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. Erica, uh, are we seeing more and more that brands realize consumers feel an affinity for a brand that goes further and takes part in in doing good?
At this point, cause marketing used to be a nice to have. It used to be a luxury when it came to your marketing strategy. Now, more than 71% of consumers actually want that from the companies that they do business with. It is imperative in terms of any type of a marketing strategy that there is some type of a give back. There's some sort of connection to community and to driving a better future for all of us.
And Erica, I would think that the goal of this, both from a platform's standpoint, a company standpoint, is to get the viewer on whatever platform it is to take action.
Absolutely. In this particular case, because we were working with a nonprofit who was new and a brand sponsor who had never done marketing before, our first goal was to make sure that we established the brand value in the marketplace and really explained who they were and what they were doing and why it mattered. So our first objective was to drive everybody to our microsite, which was lifeaidhope.org, where we had a library of additional videos for people to watch. If they weren't watching the full special, they were able to see small snippets in a set of 10. And then we were leveraging the branded hashtag as well so that we could continue this story throughout all social platforms and drive people back to the website. We really needed them to understand, educate themselves, and then we'll be moving into the second phase of this campaign, which is driving people to donation and to help us really raise the funds necessary for the research.
And audiences are consuming content differently. There's television, there's you got YouTube those stories formats, TikTok. How do you and either one of you can jump in on this? How do you design that programming from the basic content that you created uh, to fit those different formats?
I can take that one. It's all about the story. Again, I know we use that term a lot, storytelling, but if there were in this project in particular, there was no better person to tell these stories than the vets and first responders themselves. So we had the fine privilege of going to their homes and interviewing them, and I'm talking hours of interview, where sometimes it would be for a 5 minute segment in a TV show, but then we were also taking a lot of that content and creating small vignettes that again told their story or mixed them up with other aspects of what we were talking about, whether
And
it
that would be online.
right. And that would be, say it was talking about technology and new research. Well, we also had the footage that we shot for the show, and we could pull from that. So, yeah, it was that I would say that was a real plus.
Erica, let's talk about Life Aid, a story of hope. What is it, and what's the issue at the heart of it?
Life Aid, a Story of Hope is about the work that's being done by our nonprofit partner, Life Aid Research Institute. It's a nonprofit organization that exists for the sole purpose of trying to reduce the impact of suicide in the military, veteran, and first responder communities. The idea and the concept of the founder is that we lose over 20 military veterans a day to suicide, And that number has not changed year after year. It is one of the greatest health crises that faces our country, our military, and our veteran service groups. So the Research Institute really approaches this very differently. Pharmacological interventions have not helped. Talk therapy has not helped. The number has stayed the same. So we're really approaching this with functional medicine, with integrative medicine, with new therapies and new technologies, and putting a lot of research rigor around that effort so that we can measure it and hopefully inevitably create a new protocol that will benefit not just military veterans and first responders, but also anyone who's struggling with mental health issues.
And how did the actual creation of the show, the program, come about?
So when we first met with our client, Life Aid Research Institute, I mean, to try to explain to somebody the fact that we want to turn mental health and its treatment on its head, it's a long story. There's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot of complexity to that particular issue. So we knew right away that we had a major challenge in trying to not just explain the organization, but explain the work and how impactful it potentially could be. So we knew that we needed to have long form in order to tell that story. We knew that we needed to have strong distribution partners, which is why we partnered with Discovery Communication. We knew we needed a trustworthy and excellent production company, which is why we partnered with you to tell these stories and really from a first person perspective, help consumers understand really just the early results that we're seeing from this particular program. And it's extraordinary.
And Rick, you've produced a number of branded content programs for Roker Entertainment. How do you approach social impact storytelling?
Well, I think the most important thing is to putting the team together. I mean, that's the role of any producer. I was fortunate on this one. I put a team together that, this project started back in January, and we kind of finished it right before its air date, which is, we had this little thing called COVID that came in the middle of it, which set off some challenges. But I had a team, a production company in Philadelphia that I use called J2 with a director, Justin Jarrett. He was terrific, and we've worked on many projects together, even with Al, actually. And we had to treat this with respect. We also had to be very careful in that because of COVID, we had a 4-person crew through most of it, 4 or 5 people going to homes, and we just had to be very, very careful because we were traveling in some hot spots. We were traveling in hot spots, honestly, in places that we didn't realize were hot spots at the time. And then a week later, we'd find that out. So, but we put together a really good crew. We had great support from our staff from the Roker staff in New York, and I couldn't say more about them. It was a great experience.
Rick, talk about, if you will, because this is a very tough topic. You have to earn people's trust. How do you go about that when you're talking about people who are, very vulnerable, and you have to earn that trust?
Well, one of the simpler things that we did was we maintained the same crew. We traveled that crew all over the country, which is unheard of these days. I mean, usually you will, hire a crew in Vegas or hire a crew in New York when you need them. But we felt that that familiarity with our crew. We met most of the participants at a retreat that they had in Las Vegas, and honestly, that retreat really brought us together. We were, sharing stories, and then what we found, we did some pre-interviews there. But then when we found that we found the stories that we wanted to, kind of expand on, we went into people's homes, and it was amazing how, it was like a month later, maybe 6 weeks later, we would walk into their homes and they remembered us. It was familiar. They trusted us. And we trusted ourselves to be able to tell their story. And I have to say, you mentioned emotion. It was quite emotional. I'm getting a little bit emotional right now. Sorry, I'm Italian. But these are tough stories. Some of the stories were so tough that we kind of didn't include them because in the show. Um, uh, there were a lot of private conversations too, and a lot of learning going on both ways. So yeah.
So, Erica, you know, there's this great nonprofit, Life Aid Research Institute. And how do you get somebody like Cerner, who had never done marketing before, to be to become part of this campaign?
Right. It was, we were developing our business relationship separately with the Life Aid Research Institute and with Cerner. And when we initially met Cerner and met their new government services division and the new marketing team that was part of that new division that was servicing the VA and DoD, we were really digging deep into understanding what they had determined were going to be their three core pillars. Suicide prevention ended up being one of those core pillars. So it was our job then to really look across. There's over 40,000 veteran services organizations out there, and our company has a lot of experience with a lot of those nonprofits. So for Cerner, we went back through our network. We looked at a lot of different nonprofit partners and identified the Life Aid Research Institute as the best potential partner. Given the need to tell their story and tell it in a big way, it really matched pretty well with what Cerner was trying to do. Cerner services the VA and is the leader in helping to transition the medical records of the VA to the new electronic record system. So, suicide prevention is a number one issue that the VA is attempting to solve, and Cerner wanted to make sure they were playing a very proactive role in that. So, with this partnership that we were able to put together, it really brought together two unique sets of needs, and it created a campaign that really benefited everybody that was involved.
And in fact, it was personal for the president of Cerner, in
You
that
know,
it was.
that's the craziest part about suicide prevention. It is such a lightning rod issue in the veteran space, in now the first responder space as well. We don't have as much good data around first responders, but we're losing more first responders to suicide than we are in active duty. And in just about every single conference room that we sit in, when we start talking about mental health and the subject of suicide comes up, whether it's children's mental health, whether it's veterans, first responders, really whatever subset, there is always someone in the room who has a personal connection.
And Erica, and I want to get both your takes on this. I'll start with you, Erica. Though, what can brands and nonprofits learn from Life Aid and Cerner when it comes to social impact marketing?
Well, I think there's a lot to be learned, and I think we're all still learning. For this particular initiative, we were really focused on the educational and the awareness piece of this. But we are just getting started. We are not going to be at a point where we can say our work is done here until we change the statistics for suicide. So I think, in any social impact campaign, when you're looking at the work of a nonprofit and the funding and the support from corporate America, really at the core of that has to be, what is our goal? What are the numbers that we need to reach? What is the impact we need to have? And how are people's lives going to be changed? And if that is the core of the strategy, then everything else starts to really fall into place.
And Rick, what would you tell nonprofits and companies that want to help? Uh, what advice would you give them when it comes to creating those programs?
Well, it kind of piggybacks on what Erica just said, the word trust. We were very fortunate with the client Cerner, the sponsor Cerner, in that they were, I don't want to say hands off, because they were very enthused and watching the clips, but they really had very few changes to what our creative director Justin really wanted to do. They really they trusted us. They trusted our company, and that goes a long way. So that's the advice I'd give any corporation: find the right team in the beginning, find somebody that you can trust, look at the work, And you also have to work in a way that is representative of that client. You know, you really need very high production skills, and that doesn't always necessarily mean high cost. What it means is production value, getting, putting the budget money that we have, putting most of it on the screen, and that's my goal as a producer, is to make sure that all that budget, as much as we can. Certainly, crew members need to make money. People need to make, there are expenses to any job, but the more we could put on the screen, and we luckily had a team that felt that they wanted to do that.
Erica, one last thing. We've done work together before, and one of the things I think, and that I think you and Maria at EMME Solutions are so good at, is managing the expectations of the both the organizations and the folks who are sponsoring it, because it doesn't do a provider, a sponsor especially, who's going to help underwrite this, any good to try to put their company first as opposed to the social marketing, the social good they're trying to do, because it kind of fights, in a sense, what they're doing.
It absolutely does. And it's part of the reason that we're as specific as we are about the partners that we put together, and the people that we have the opportunity to work with. We want to make sure that all of our storytelling is authentic and organic. So in this particular case, Cerner's objectives and LifeAid's objectives were the same, which made that very easy and very natural. And that's all part of the initial discovery phase that we go through in terms of vetting brands and understanding what their objectives are, and then trying to find the right distribution partner. That's another key part of this, as well as the nonprofit partner. And if we can get everybody on the same page early, and everybody's working towards the same goal that really makes an impact, and we've really put together what the measurements and the metrics are going to be around that, because that's another part of this. This isn't just marketing for the sake of marketing. We have to make sure that we're measuring this.
And Rick, I'll give you the last word. I'll give you a chance to flip the script and ask me something you want to.
Well, Al, that's interesting. Let's see. Al, one thing that clients always ask me, anybody that we're working with, they say, "Why Al does the Today Show? Like, why does he have a production company?" And I've always, I know the answer, but maybe it's an interesting story.
Wow, I don't know the answer. I know
the answer. Do you want me to tell me?
Yeah, tell me what I know. The short of it is that I never wanted to be on TV. I wasn't going to be. I didn't want. I mean, you look here, you don't think. I mean, you gotta.
I know.
I was a balding, black, chubby kid from Queens who wore Coke bottle glasses. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see somebody looking back going, "Hey, you should be on TV." I thought my success in television was going to be behind the camera, producing, writing, doing stuff like that. And so I've always wanted to be a producer. And we started the production company back in 1994, and it gives me a lot of pride and a lot of satisfaction, and not just doing television, but doing television that makes a difference, that I think my kids can watch, that I can say I'm proud of, is really important to me. And having folks like you, Erica, and like you, Rick, helping achieve that means the world to me. And I really appreciate it, and want to thank you for everything that you've done. And I want to also thank the folks at Advertising Week for the opportunity to discuss good social branded content. And if you'd like to watch the full program, visit lifeaidhope.org, and it's also on our website, alrokerentertainment.com. Make sure you follow both Al Roker Entertainment and EMME Solutions on social media. And if you're a brand or a nonprofit, please connect with us on LinkedIn, and let's work together. I'm Al Roker. Have a good one.